It's a defining moment. It's going to decide whether we have Social Security in this country, whether we have Medicare in this country, whether we have student loans and Pell Grants, whether we have a chance for the middle class to continue to grow and to have the American dream. And most of all, it's a defining moment as to whether we're going to have collective bargaining in this country.
I asked George Allen, who was a senator from 2000 to 2006, and he voted to privatize Social Security. I gave him a real simple opportunity. I said, look, if that had happened in 06, and you had let people, instead of putting money into the trust fund, put them into private accounts, first you would have completely jeopardized the solvency of the fund for the current retirees, and second, the people putting money into their own accounts, when the high flyers on Wall Street tanked the stock market, they would have lost their money. Will you now at least admit that that was a mistake and you shouldn't have done it and you wouldn't do it again? Well, I gave him a simple opportunity. It's not a hard question, but he didn't say it was a mistake, and he said, no, I favor more options for people. And what that tells me is if you won't make a commitment to preserve Social Security when all the evidence says that would have been a disaster, then you ought to worry about what he's going to do with Social Security. So he's still with Social Security privatization. He's praising the Ryan budget, which would voucherize Medicare, and on a whole lot of other positions, George's approach, which he tried. He was in the Senate, he tried it, and when he tried it, when he started, we had the biggest surpluses in the history of the United States, and we're in a boom economy, and by the time we were done, we had turned that surplus into a massive deficit, and we're going into the worst economic decline since the 1930s. The last thing we need to do is to embrace a philosophy that put us into the tank. Instead, we have to do what we all know is the right thing to do. We've got to invest in infrastructure. You know, so our economy is as strong as we want, let's build our way out of it. When we build, we hire people, puts people to work right away, and then we raise our platform and our infrastructure for economic success, and then we can enjoy the fruits of those labors for 50, 60, 70 years. That's why when I was governor, I fought so hard to do projects like Rail to Dulles and Hot Lanes on the Beltway, and also fought so hard to make sure that labor was around the table and participating in the projects. And that's why Rail to Dulles, for example, Phase 1, is largely on time and on budget, because great, productive, highly skilled, on time, on budget workers are there making that project happen. So the first thing we do is not privatize Social Security or voucherize Medicare, we build. I believe deeply in education, and I know you do too. I got any AFT members in the house? Yes! And since this is everybody in the House of Labor believes in education, because some of the best workforce development that is done in this country is done by labor organizations. I mean, I think that is the real kind of key to labor, and especially labor going forward, is train that workforce so that the workforce is best, and then you'll have an edge. And we need to have the edge as a nation. We got to be the most talented place on earth, attract talent, grow talent, train talent. I got a different point of view. I grew up in a household, we got a lot of iron workers here, and I'm always... My dad ran an ironworker organized ironworking shop in the stockyards of Kansas City, Missouri, where my family is from, and everybody still lives. I'm kind of the one that got away. But my dad was management, but had a spectacular relationship with his ironworker workforce, so well that they asked him to be one of the 3 employer reps on the National Shopman's Pension Fund. And the way we learned it, my brothers and me and my mom, we all worked for my dad's business too, is that, look, the productivity and professionalism and skill of his iron workers, his union iron workers, helped put my brothers and me through college. And my dad's business acumen helped put his workers' kids through college. It was a partnership. It's not about bashing, you know, union bosses or even bashing management. It's a partnership. And the reason that the U.S. economy has been the biggest in the world since 1890, and that we really rocketed ahead after World War II, is we got that partnership right. People like my opponent, who never will talk about union or labor without instinctively trying to bash them, they want to spend their competitive energies fighting against one another when we ought to be fighting against India and China and out-competing the rest of the world. Right. I don't want to spend my time fighting against other Americans. You know, I want to have a partnership mentality and then spend our time going out and out-competing the other nations and other economies that are very focused on us. They're not focused on internally bashing each other. They're focused on outcompeting us and reducing our opportunities, and we need to focus the same way.